Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As we listen to the sound of our peace bowl, let us gather our hearts and our hope for peace on this earth. Today, with flowers all around us, we acknowledge that these lands that we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people, the Wipukepas, the Quevkepayas, the Tolkepayas, and the Yavapai. As we today consider flowers, let us listen to the rose and all that a rose might mean. All through this service, the photographs of flowers that you see are from our community.
Good morning and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I am Rhea Batterman, your worship associate today. We extend a warm welcome. We hope you are happy and in good health. We want to stay connected, so please join us for the breakout rooms after today's service. This will give us time to chat with your friends and members and visitors, and it really is nice to catch up with people. If you are joining us for the first time, please visit our website for more information at granitepeak@prescottuu.org. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures and the spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. We extend our thanks to all those who contributed to today's presentation: Reverend Patty Willis, Heather Knowles for her technical direction, Mary Lou Prince for her musical direction, and Leslie Grady and other Granite Peak friends for the lovely photos that you have seen. Although we are physically apart, we are still in community, and we continue with several of our meetings and activities via the internet and Zoom. So please check the weekly Peak, our newsletter, and emails, and our website and Facebook. We encourage you to join the Wednesday Granite Peak Political and Religious Forum at 10 a.m. Also at Wednesday at 2 p.m. is the afternoon study group. And on Fridays at noon, there is lunch with Reverend Patty Willis. You'll find information about these announcements in today's order of service. The children's service is at 11:30. Please contact Bev Bostrom for more information about that. There's also more details about all the information in today's email from Heather. Please remember our at-risk friends and community members during joys and sorrows. You can contact Nancy Beeson if you're in need in any help from the care team. Now, importantly, this is the most important, please make a note to yourself that next Sunday after the service, there's going to be the annual board meeting for Granite Peak, where we will be nominating board members, community members, and lots more to talk about. The Zoom link will be the same as the one provided for you in next week's service meeting. So please be there. It's really important. This is the time that we light our chalice. Maybe. Come on. Okay, there we go. We light this chalice today with words from a poem created by Norbert F. Capac. May the blessing of flowers be upon you. May their beauty beckon you each morning, and their loveliness lure you each day, and their tenderness caress you each night. May their delicate petals make you gentle, and their eyes make you aware. May their stems make you sturdy, and their reaching make you care. Now, words of gathering by Patty.
Good morning, everyone. The baby birds that just peeked out during my sermon last week are now big in the nest outside our window, and the parents have been busily bringing food to them. We gather today in one of our most joyous celebrations of the year. Flowers are abundant on our altars in our homes, and they are coming up in our gardens and in our planters. This is the service that most clearly embodies who we aspire to be as Unitarian Universalists, a community that accepts and loves diversity. During this season, almost 100 years ago, the Unitarian minister Norbert Čapek looked out at the fields of wildflowers and thought how their variety reminded him of the people in his congregation. He thought that all the differences in flowers represented the differences that we accept among us, not only tolerate, but celebrate. So today we gather and remember that beloved minister in the Czech Republic, that beloved minister whose vision still has the power to change the world. May we, in his memory, celebrate our differences, beliefs, backgrounds, parents, and life experiences. Please stay after our service to hear about our dreams for this transformation of the sanctuary, and or meet us at Granite Peak in our very sanctuary from 1 to 3 this afternoon. Please wear masks since all of us are not vaccinated. Lemonade and cookies will be provided. And now I invite you to sing with our Granite Peak singers, a song that is worth learning if you don't know it, Praise in Springtime.
Praise to God and thanks we bring, hearts rejoice and voices ring. Praises to the glorious one, for the year of wonders done. Praise the for the budding green, April's resurrection seen. Praise the for the shining stars, starring all the land with us. Praise the for the summer rain, feeding day and night with rain. Praise the for the tiny seed, holding all the world shall be. Praise the for the garden new, meadow grass and orchard fruit, and for hills and valleys broad, bring we now our thanks to God. Praise the for the snowy rest, falling soft on nature's breast, for the happy dreams of birth, brooding in the quiet earth, for this year of wonder done. Praise to all the glorious one, hearts rejoice and voices sing. Praise and love and thanks we bring.
Wasn't that beautiful? Now, please join me in saying our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. And now I invite you again into the sound of this bowl. Let us take a deep breath together. Let us feel the earth beneath our feet. Let us feel our connections with this whole earth and these 14 months that we have experienced together on this planet. As we breathe and remember the way that the earth has supported us, let us acknowledge the people in the lands of Israel and Palestine. Let us acknowledge and support the people who are there, whose hearts are yearning for peace, as we are here so far away. Let us also hold in this community joy that Joan Brown, who was newly in the hospital, is now home and feeling well. Let us continue to hold the many who are in the process of recovering. Judy Davis, Janer Eldridge, Eunice Lovejoy, Karen Anderson, Ed Rosage, and Peter Eldridge. Let us hold all those who are grieving. Christy McHugh and Aaron Holloway, and all those who have lost people close to them. We also hold Karen Hagberg and her husband Merle. Let us hold them as they learn new ways of living. Let us hold all those who are among us, who are feeling isolated and lonely, who have personal sorrows that they are bearing alone. May they feel the love of our community around them. And now, as we enter a time of silence together, I invite you to say the names of any of those who you are holding on your hearts. Let us also hold Ria's son, Rodney, who is recovering from a difficult time. So let us ring the bell, and I invite you to say the names of those, even your own, those on your hearts and minds. And now please join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we are here gathering together, considering the diversity among us and the diversity in this world. Our hearts are beating together, hoping for peace in this world and hoping that all who are among us, who are suffering, may feel the love and connection of this community. We feel together this interconnected web that connects us with places on the other side of the earth. Let us send our hopes of peace all through that web. In your many names we pray. Amen. And now I invite you to sing with me, Walking, Walking with You. Walking, walking with you, walking with you is my prayer.
Hello again. This is the time in our service when we would normally gather the offering in the sanctuary. Let us embrace the feeling of connection and community as we gather each week. Let us remember that our congregation, its staff, and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to our community through Seeds of Support. This month, for the month of May, our congregation will support the Opportunity Scholarship Fund established by Granite Peak with Yavapai College Foundation. This scholarship helps DACA students who are enrolled in schools. This is urgent, and we please ask you that you dig deep and donate. To give during this distance time, please go to prescottuu.org. On the bottom left-hand side, click the word donate to contribute via PayPal. The link is also available in the chat on this video. Please note in the comments or the box of your check, if you are mailing such, what your pledge is for. If it's for SOS, please mark that, or if it's for donation for Granite Peak or any other fund, kindly do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle Fauré, for Les Roses d'Ispahan, sung by the marvelous Ellie Omling. This morning, as we enter into the flower communion ceremony, I will bless the flowers that are in your homes and that are around me. To bless the flowers, I use the words of Reverend Norbert Chopek, the Czech Unitarian minister whose vision of respecting all diversity was too radical for Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia. He died for his radical beliefs in Dachau. And in the biography of Čapek's life, I learned that his family had wanted him to be a tailor, not a minister. He had had to go against what was expected of him, as many of us have, in order to truly use his great gifts. Perhaps it was his own pain at being different that inspired him to create a ritual that values the beauty of our differences. This is the prayer that Norbert Čapek wrote to bless the flowers over 70 years ago. Please join me in a spirit of prayer as we bless the flowers around us. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of the most beautiful, precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Amen. And now let us listen to Mary Lou's music and watch the photographs of flowers that you have loved. In our garden, peonies, one of my favorite flowers, are budding and getting ready to bloom. But not all flowers are possible in our garden. We've heard that the people before us who created the low water use garden spent thousands of dollars putting in plants that were then eaten by the javelina and or deer. We are in the happy path that the animals in the national forest beyond the houses across the street from us take to and from the feeders that are filled every day gleefully by our neighbor. I watch them from our study window, nibble on the last of our lilacs and decimate the iris, which are wildly blooming in front of other houses on our street. Our garden attracts the after breakfast and the after dinner dessert crowd. The couple who built our house discovered that the animals do not like peonies or snapdragons, rosemary, sage, or other plants. And if you're having a similar problem, I'd be glad to introduce you to what has worked in our garden. In every other garden we've had, I depended on one of those books with all the kinds of plants for the growing zone I lived in and designed flower beds according to color and shape and height. Of course, if there were a flower I liked, then I'd have lots of those. I always chose lots of purple and blue flowers, but in order for those flowers to shine, I needed to plant yellow ones and orange ones and white flowers too, and sometimes red flowers. How do you plan your garden or your flower pots on a balcony or house plants? Or did you inherit your flowers as we did? The flowers that inspired Norbert Chapek to create Flower Communion were the flowers that you see in the mountain meadows, wild flowers of all types, just coming up like those fields of yellow desert poppies around Picacho Peak, or those special places near Cottonwood that you know how to find in the spring, where all of a sudden the path opens into a meadow of wildflowers. Reverend Chapek's spiritual path went from childhood Catholicism to becoming a Baptist minister and then becoming a Unitarian minister while he was living in the United States. When he returned to Europe to establish the Unitarian Church in Prague, the early worship services generally consisted of lectures. The congregation dispensed with elaborate rituals, singing of hymns even, decoration, and formal or prescribed prayers. I wonder if Reverend Chapek was thinking about how he could add a new aspect to the worship service, looking for another kind of communion when he went on long walks in the mountains. Communion, which in the Catholic religion of his childhood was the central sacrament of the Catholic Mass, is a sacrament during which the ordinary, bread and wine, become something holy. They become divine. For those of you who don't know Flower Communion, this is the yearly Sunday tradition in most Unitarian Universalist congregations when people bring flowers from home, sometimes their gardens, sometimes florist shops, often their favorite flowers. They bring them to the sanctuary, and during the communion, we all bring our flowers up to this altar that is covered in bouquets. We add them to a bouquet, and then we choose another flower, and we take that flower back with us. This shows our appreciation for the flower that another loved enough to add to the display. It shows our appreciation for each other. Everyone goes home with flowers to remind them of the beauty of the differences in our community. I wonder if Reverend Norbert Chopek, when he looked out at that field of flowers, I wonder if he had an epiphany, one of those mystical experiences when we see with new eyes, and he saw the diversity as something to value, that the variety and diversity of flowers was at the heart of their beauty. Clumps of buttercups become exquisite when growing next to fields of azure lupins, and even more lively when scattered with crimson poppies. Reverend Chopek's eyes opened, and the field of flowers became something holy. At the end of the prayer for flower communion, that I read before watching those beautiful flowers you love, Chopek added something interesting. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in the world. In that field of flowers, along with valuing the humble dandelion, what about one of those splendid flowers, like the stargazer lily, known for its large star-shaped blooms that give off a sweet perfume, a strong perfume that can overwhelm the scent of other flowers and go all through your home? Or my grandmother's deep red peonies that won prizes in garden shows. How do we feel about those flowers? When I was discerning about attending seminary and disrupting our life together, after only a few months after moving to Southern Arizona from Japan, I went to Guatemala to study Spanish and to be on my own for 2 weeks and listen. On one of my last days, I booked a tour to Copan, Honduras, where there are ancient Mayan ruins. I got up early in the darkness and stood in front of the house where I was staying with a family. It was 4 a.m. And I was wondering who I would meet that day, hoping that most of the participants would be Spanish speakers, and so that I could speak Spanish with them. I was hoping it wouldn't rain or be too cold, because it had been cold. The van finally arrived, and I squeezed into a seat in the back, the only place where seats were left for the taking. The van only went a short distance and then stopped in front of a hotel, and the last passenger entered who would have to squeeze into the seat next to me. He was tall and slender, with curly blonde hair, and truthfully, one of the most beautiful human beings I had ever seen. It was hard not to stare. I don't remember what I was thinking, but I do remember looking away and being uncomfortable. I would have felt more comfortable with someone who was more like one of those scruffy weed flowers at the side of the road. He was a stargazer lily. I remember that when he sat down, he tried to make sure he wasn't squishing me. The 6-hour-long road to Copan had lots of potholes and trucks to careen around, so we often bumped into each other, no matter how hard I tried to hold on to that hand grip on the side of the van. By the time we arrived at the Copan ruins, I had heard his life story. He had been the lead dancer of the Stuttgart Ballet, and he was wondering about what to do with his life. At Copan, we walked together. He helped me to climb up the pyramids and explore. And I noticed all the people around looking at him because he was beautiful. He walked and climbed with me, and we talked and talked and talked. And we talked all the way back on the bus. Both of us, with such different lives, had found ourselves at a crossroads, both of us wondering which way to go. For a few hours, we stood at that crossroads together. We became friends. Although we never wrote to one another or met again, it was an unexpected and it was a holy day. I have heard some of you talk about the surprising times you have had right here on Zoom in those breakout rooms, the randomness of the selection. New and unexpected friendships have been forming over generations and different backgrounds. Right now, I imagine that many of you feel the strangeness that I do as I do some of the things that I haven't done for a very long time. Even yesterday with the choir singing without our masks, wondering if we really could hug each other. We were outside, Lou is reminding me to say that. For 14 months, we have carefully created a distance to keep ourselves and the world safe with the use of masks and with an actual distance. And before we jump into life as it was, and I have to say here an important part, that we cannot assume that all people are vaccinated because there are many whose immune systems are too vulnerable or for a variety of reasons choose not to be vaccinated. We need to continue to be sensitive in this moment and find out if precautions are necessary. And as we stand on the brink, looking across the divide that we have kept so carefully for 14 months, could we intentionally look out with new eyes? In a sense, we are all at a crossroads after 14 months of a different way of living with danger and uncertainty. Many of us are wondering how we will do things differently. How will we pass these next days, months, and years of our lives that are ahead? Let us consider looking at people in that moment as we look at flowers, that row of vases in front of the sanctuary. As you look out at the array of flowers before you, watch for those tiny purple daisies that bloom on the roadside and the night blooming cereus that fills the desert with its incredible scent and beauty, and then it's gone. And what is left looks like a stick coming out of the earth. Magnificent iris and steady vincas, watch them growing on the rocky hillsides. As I look around this Zoom gathering, I see a wildly blooming bouquet. I invite you to look around for a moment. Even change, I have 3 different screens filled with flowers. Do you see, as I do, the beauty of familiar faces and those newly among us and people who may be just passing through, and cats and dogs and nesting birds? We have a beautiful variety. As we are able to have more time in person, let us keep that coronavirus pause and intentionally open our welcome to all kinds of humans, whether they be ordinary, extraordinary, common, rare, scruffy, scrubbed, and elegant, by stopping ourselves from the judgments that we have made throughout our lives about who might be a friend. For when those judgments fall away or are forced away because we're sitting next to someone in a tourist van or we're in a breakout room, our minds open to the value of someone different from us, and those ordinary materials that make up humans become something different, even holy. During the past months, I have had holy times with members of our community on Zoom, under the shade of the cottonwood trees, speaking loudly to be heard across the distance, with people bringing food to our sanctuary, with our staff during our meetings, and with the people who have taken food back to their families. I had a holy time with two men who came yesterday who had heard from a mother. I didn't ask questions. A mother who said that we would welcome them, that we had food. In Chopek's words, may we cherish friendship as one of the most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in the world. All of us are needed for that field of flowers that Norbert Chopek saw shining in a mountain valley. Amen, and may it be so. And now join me in trying to sing the Spanish of De Colores with Joan Baez. We close with the words of that great mystical poet who found her garden holy, Emily Dickinson. With a flower, I hide myself within my flower, that wearing on your breast, you, unsuspecting, wear me too, and angels know the rest. I hide myself within my flower, that fading from your vase, you, unsuspecting, feel for me almost a loneliness. And now we are going to have a great treat. For our postlude, we are going to be watching a video about the transformation of our sanctuary, about that process that has been ongoing for 20 years. And then afterwards, we're going to have a Zoom time to ask questions of the different people who are in the video and others. But let us listen. Oh, and then those of you who came in later, 1 to 3 in our sanctuary today, we will be there to answer your questions. Here is Heather's marvelous work.
We've been here since 2001, and the look at the sanctuary wasn't a big deal because I was so excited to be part of the UU congregation in Prescott. But as time marched on, I started to notice things that needed some help.
It's not like we haven't tried. These are not new ideas. We found in the archives as far back as 2001, people suggesting that we get a vaulted ceiling in the sanctuary. And we've had all kinds of meetings over the years. There was definitely, every time the board set new priorities for the year, they would mention something about expanding the facilities, about making the sanctuary welcoming. And we've had then a major strategic plan that we brought in outside consultants to work on our mission. We looked at every area of our church life. We thought about our goals, of how many members we wanted to have. And we came up with pages and pages of suggestions people had and grouped those into categories. But the ones related to the sanctuary were the most passionate, and I think they're still very relevant today. The top things on that list were natural light, a warm, natural-looking use of materials, a higher ceiling, better acoustics, new floor coverings, accessibility, and flexibility. We've been talking about this for a long time. There's a lot of agreement and consensus among the congregation, and we've had the conversations that are continuing. By 2019, we were really circling in on a direction that we wanted to go. All we had to do was wait for a new minister, a new called minister that would come and lead us through the process.
When I first came to Prescott and interviewed at Granite Peak 2 years ago in March, and it was so cold, I was told that that the congregation had done lots of work around possibly finding a new space. And that I found that very interesting. And when I came here, I started to get together an architect search team. But it soon became evident to me that the board and people in leadership were just not wanting to go ahead and make that big leap into having an architect. It was a very expensive leap. And so what I started to wonder about is if we needed to think about doing the best with what we have. And we received a marvelous donation, and we put in windows. Bill Betts was facilities chair then, and we put windows in the in an adjoining door, so you didn't need to go from one classroom in the faith development building to the other through the bathroom. So we did all of these things, and then Bill Betts put in marvelous electric work around so that we had good lighting around our the building. And then when the pandemic struck, we started to really get into painting because we weren't using the building. It was so easy to get people together and do all this painting. We had marvelous volunteers, and Dan Reardon was making these great frames for the outside. We made the Davis Hall just look beautiful and renewed. And then we did the faith development buildings. And then we did the office, and we moved the things from the office, old office, into where the nursery was, and shifted all those things around. And Bronwyn made a beautiful little nursery where the office had been. So we did all of these things, and then we had the sanctuary left.
The thing I'm most excited about, actually, is really two things. One is to convert the space, or transform the space we have, to a more contemplative space, less like a warehouse, and more of an open, airy space that people really kind of walk in and say, "Oh, wow, this is really nice." And I think the first idea, and it was all made possible by the fact that it was discovered there's no asbestos, so removal of the ceiling is not a problem. The first simplest idea was just to remove the ceiling, expose these trusses, and initially we thought, gee, that might be kind of nice, but then we actually had the architect's drawings, and it looks like it's going to be a mess if you leave those trusses available. So the group has sort of evolved into an idea of just doing a new roof, basically, and that leaves a lot of possibility. What is it that you like about this idea?
Well, we've kind of gone through a transformation. We've had different roof pitches, tried different options to, I think what Rick was saying, to make it more airy and more natural light. And so we're trying to create that and looking at, the different options to create different things. Mm-hmm. So, and I think what we've come up with is a steeper roof to have a higher ceiling, to have a better feel, and to increase the acoustic value of the area. And then we've got some different design things that we've done, different beams and different windows that we're looking at.
In acoustics, as a singer and a performer, the current situation is really not satisfactory. And in fact, leaving the trusses in place and removing the ceiling you'd have a mess in terms of the acoustic characteristics of the space.
Right.
And so this would allow the space, not only on Sundays, but other opportunities for musicians to come in and perform. And we could think it could be a really very attractive space for that purpose.
I think that's what's most exciting to me is the idea that you're going to walk into it and you don't feel like you're walking into the Oddfellows Hall. You feel like you're walking into a church, a usual congregational space. And it's a spiritual or religious space in some sense.
So we've been dreaming about renovating our congregational home ever since we've been here for 20 years. As we dreamed over those 20 years, we've been making memories. For me, the dedication of my 2 grandchildren and the renewal of our wedding vows.
But I remember how Dan had us sing Spirit of Life to his cell phone when cell phones were still new. And we sang to Gyla Siegel, and a little bit later, another time to Don Hams, saying goodbye on behalf of the congregation. Just so many memories in that space.
As we were making memories, we were also making improvements as we could to the whole campus for all these 20 years, and so many people have participated in that. Joanna Hawley's art renderings of our principles on the sanctuary wall, and Roger Ace's sign, stonework sign outside were 2 early improvements, but systems and all kinds of things. But our sanctuary was stubbornly resistant to improve. I would love to have more natural light in the sanctuary.
So since Patty talked about the Yavapai foundations of this area, I love the idea of having our spiritual home go back and acknowledge the natural beauty of the region, the mountains, the trees, natural materials. That would just make it such a spiritually moving experience for me.
We believe our ideas are much more than a renovation. And all of these, this whole process, you can see in our sanctuary. We're going to have pictures of every step of the way. And I hope that you can see all the beautification projects that are happening, because our building is looking fabulous. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. And now we will extinguish our chalice and go into that time of question and answer. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I believe that you will all be given a choice if you want to go into a breakout room, or if you want to stay and ask some questions of the people who are on the sanctuary transformation team. So I'll give that a little bit to let that happen.